Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimoooooooo. So today I'm bringing to you my $30 budget Mechanized Madness deck profile. I like to do this every time we get a new structure deck and challenge myself to see if we can come up with a deck only using the contents of those 3 structure decks and see what we can come up with. Now, bear in mind, don't expect to take this to any sort of competitive event. Well, we're under quarantine, so that's not going to happen anyway, but don't expect to take this like online and expect to be just dominating tier 1 decks. That's not how this is going to work. This is definitely not the best, $30 structure deck we've ever had, but it's not the worst either. There's some interesting interactions and some cards that do some pretty cool things, and so that's why I wanted to go ahead and bring you guys this video today. Maybe you're looking for a way to have some fun, or maybe show one of your friends how to play, and this might be a good entry point for someone to do so. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're going to start off with 3 copies of Machina Citadel. This is your big boss monster for the deck, and it's a pretty decent one at that. I mean, it's got a built-in board wipe in it, so how bad could it really be? For those of you who don't know, it is a Earth level 10 machine with 3,000 attack, 2,500 defense. It must be special summoned by a card effect and cannot be normal summoned or set. As a quick effect, keep that in mind, you can target a machine monster you control, destroy that machine monster, and all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. If a face-up Earth machine monster you control except Citadel is destroyed by battle or card effect, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. So essentially what you're trying to do for your win condition is to get this card into the graveyard as quickly as possible, and then that way you can resurrect it by its own effect through all the other Machina cards just popping themselves, and then that way you have this continuous recursive threat that you can threaten to just blow up your opponent's board at any given moment. Now again, bear in mind that a lot of the more higher tier decks have like answers for this type of effect, but for the most part, I mean, it's still pretty devastating, especially if you're playing more casually. Next up, we have 3 copies of Machina Aerator. This card's pretty cool, so you can discard you can discard one other Machina monster to special summon this card from your hand. Then during your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can target a machine you control, also counts itself, special summon from your deck a machine monster with a different name and an equal or lower level than that monster. And if you do, destroy that targeted monster. So what you can do is, let's say, for instance, you get Citadel into the grave and you summon Aerator. Then during your opponent's turn, you can like pop Aerator, summon something out of your deck that'll trigger Citadel to summon itself back out, and then you can use Citadel to pop whatever you summon and wipe your opponent's board. That's just like a basic interaction, but Aerator also helps just enable that, especially because you can do it during the opponent's turn. Keep that in mind. Next up, we have 3 copies of Machina Fortress. Again, this is kind of the OG Machina card, allowing you to just get a big body on the board, but also can be very annoying. It allows you to destroy cards, which is very relevant, and you can also get cards out of your opponent's hand sometimes. Very rarely does that come up, especially in modern Yu-Gi-Oh days, but still a cool card nonetheless. Next up, we have 3 copies of Machina Gear Frame. This is your starter, your main searcher. If it's normal summoned, you can add a Machina monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. And that's pretty good because pretty much the entire deck is like Machina cards, so that allows you to get whatever you need. You can get stuff like Citadel to your hand, then like pitch Citadel to summon the Aerator, and then you pretty much have your combo online right there, just from a single copy of Machina Gear Frame. So that's pretty nice. Next up, we have 3 copies of Scrap Recycler. So what's nice about Scrap Recycler is that it also kind of helps facilitate our combo, since we're trying to get Citadel to the graveyard as quickly as possible. This card isn't just for Orcust, and this is a pretty cool interaction because, again, since it's a machine, you can also fulfill it for any of the popping effects of the Machina cards, and that's just a pretty neat thing you can do. Just tons of synergy, just being able to just pretty much does what you want to do, right? If you can get Citadel to the grave, the card's probably good. Next up, we're going to get to some 2-ofs here. So we've got 2 copies of Machina Possessed Storage. Now, this card just allows you to recur Machina cards from your graveyard when he's normal or special summon. They can't use their effects that turn, but they can use them the following turns, which is very relevant. This is something you can like tag into off of some of your Machina effects, which is nice. It does help you get more card advantage to the field. Just having that recursion is just very powerful for this deck. And then also has the ability to bounce spells and traps as well, which is very relevant because aside from like a single card in this deck besides this, you don't really have any spell and trap removal. So it's cool that it's built into the archetype itself. Next up, we have 2 copies of Machina Irridator. Now, Irridator is nice because it allows you to discard another Machina card to special summon it, kind of like Aerator, but also Irridator allows you to special summon Machina monsters from the graveyard. And so this is really nice because, again, it allows you to just keep fueling all your engine and keep it going. Stats are not like like the greatest, but again, you're just trying to use this to get as many bodies on the board as possible. Now for some one-ofs, one copy of Machina Megaform. This card can effectively be any Machina card in your deck if you get it to the field. However, you have to get it to the field, and that's kind of the difficult part. It doesn't allow you to just like special summon it out. That'd be way too good, right? And so you just want to play one of it just so you can have access to it, so you can effectively tutor for whatever you want depending on how you're popping cards with your other Machina cards. And then lastly, one copy of Yu-GiOh, the Star Destroying Kaiju. Now, you might be thinking to yourself why we're not maxing out on this, because our options for like getting rid of our opponent's threats may not be the best. But the thing is, you actually can't really clear Yu-GiOh very easily. It's actually very difficult because like Citadel only pops monsters that have an attack equal or lower to whatever you pop, and itself is 3,000. Yu-GiOh is 3,300, so like you can't pop it with like that effect. There's not really a lot of spot removal in here, and so the reason why I didn't maximize it is because there's no consistent way that, yeah, you may get rid of your opponent's card, but then you can't get rid of the Yu-GiOh, so like what good does that do you? So I figure just having one in case you come up with any of those matchups, it's fine. You can just side deck the other two so that if you go against a super heavy combo deck, you have the option to put them in. But just bear in mind, it's not really that easy to get rid of for this $30 build, and that's why I kind of wanted to hold off on it. So that's it for the monsters. Let's go ahead and get to the spell cards now. So 3 copies of Machina Redeployment. This is the in-archetype searcher. You can either discard a card and add 2 Machina monsters with different names to your hand, or you can discard a Machina card to add 2 Machina cards, not monsters. So since we are playing a variety of Machina cards, you're able to, we're actually, I think, playing a trap card in here as well that's Machina. Yeah, so you can search the trap, which is pretty nice. And just overall, just fuels your engine. You want to get Citadel to the grave, remember that, so this enables you to do that. And who wouldn't want to play 3 of a spell that searches every card in your deck, right? Next up, we have 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. This is more meta dependent, I would say. If you don't know like what your meta is, like, I mean, this is kind of just safe, but if you know your opponents in your like area aren't playing a lot of spell and trap decks, then you could probably substitute this for something else, maybe more combo pieces to kind of help you refuel your hand, different things like that. I just like always playing spell and trap removal in these $30 decks because it always comes in handy, right? You never know if you're going to go up against Mystic Mind and need that out. And then, oh boy, this is where I'm probably going to differ on a lot of people's lists for anyone else who does this, but I am going with triple limiter removal. So my theory is we don't really have a lot of cards in this deck to like cheese wins, but this is one of them. And so if there's ever the chance to get like a 6,000 or 12,000 attack Machina Citadel, we just have to go for it, right? We can just like one punch our opponent in the face with one of those cards. I just think we have to play this because we need something unfair, and limiter removal for machine decks specifically is one of the most unfair cards out there. So yeah, it may be a little bit win more or maybe a little bit cheesy, but I just say let's go for it because you're gonna have a lot of fun resolving one, if not multiple of these against your opponent, and wait till you see those reactions. Wrapping up the spells though, 1 copy of Pot of Avarice. This deck can go through monsters pretty quickly, so just being able to recycle your resources, draw a couple cards, is just nice to be able to make sure you have a steady flow of resources going at your opponent. So that's it for the spells. Now we have the traps. So first up, we have 3 copies of Machina Overdrive. Now you might think this is overkill, but the thing is, this card's actually pretty decent because it allows you to target a machine you control, special summon a Machina monster with a different name from your hand or deck, and if you do, destroy that targeted monster. So it effectively allows you to summon anything from your deck, so that's already pretty good. If your opponent is threatening to remove one of your cards with one of their effects, this card effectively makes you dodge that effect at the cost of using this card to get out something else, but it also can help trigger, like, let's say Citadel if you have it in the graveyard, so you can like pop something you control, summon something else from your deck, then Citadel triggers because an Earth Machine was destroyed, and so it just kind of helps bring everything together. It is a trap, so it's a little bit slow. The second effect though is also very nice because you can recycle 3 of your machine monsters that are banished from their graveyard into the deck and draw a fresh card. So that's really cool. It's also searchable via the spell card if you discard a Machina card. So just, I think this card's very, very good for this particular build because it effectively tutors for anything in your deck, it dodges removal, and it pretty much does exactly what you want it to do for the purposes of a deck like this. Next up, we have 3 copies of Back to the Front. This is effectively Monster Reborn, but it's in a trap. You might be wondering why we're not playing Magnet Reverse. Magnet Reverse has to specifically go after a card that cannot be normal summoned or set, and I think the only card that does that is Machina Citadel, which is good, but I'd rather us be able to get anything out of the grave instead of specifically just Machina Citadel, even though this card is a trap. This card's still pretty good. At the very least, it can just help you burn out a blocker so you don't get OTK'd, but at the very least, just flip it on your end phase, get a card up, then you can switch the monster to attack, and you can just go in on the following turn. Then lastly, you know we had to do it, 3 copies of Solemn Strike is going to wrap us up to a 40 card deck. If you're going first and you've got a Solemn Strike with whatever else you have on your field already, you're going to be feeling pretty good. Again, if you're going second, you maybe want to side these out, but going first, Solemn Strike's one of the best cards in the game. Not a lot can beat it, and you're definitely going to feel pretty good striking people left and right. So, guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this $30 Mechanized Madness Structure Deck. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video helpful, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.